the sunny national parks of Milan, Italy, we fly to the Far East and the Suzuka circuit in Japan for the fourth round of the GT4s here at Simsport Racing. It's season 5, and the circuit made famous for the collisions from Senna and Prost will hopefully play host to some exciting, clean GT4 action this evening. From here, we head to Hungary on the 31st of March and Silverstone for the season finale on the 7th of April. And I'm joined this evening in the commentary box by my partner in crime, David Wressell, but also Season 2 champion, Stephen Haley. Now, Stephen, we've headed into this second half of Season 5, and I made it clear on one of the early broadcasts that I have actually bagged a podium at each one of these 3 races that will make make up the second half of the season. But from Monza last week and to Suzuka this evening, it's a very unique circuit and a different challenge for the drivers.
Good evening, gentlemen. Yes, Suzuka is each one of the old classic tracks. Monza is also a very classic track. I think the guys are going to be having a lot of fun out there. I think, and a lot of twisty corners and a lot of into the hairpin as well. We've seen a couple of incidents there in previous seasons, but let's hope they keep it clean and have some good hard racing.
And David, obviously, reverse top 15. That's how the rules are here in this GT4 Championship. So the finisher in 15th last time out, he bags the pole this evening. That's certainly thrown up some interesting racing in the past, but this evening's race is going to have a slightly different look to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good evening, Tim. Good evening, Stephen. Good evening, everyone. Welcome along. Good to be here. Yeah, it's basically just to reiterate what Stephen said before. It's a classic track. It is one of those iconic old school tracks with plenty of overtaking options and a nice big long straight to boot as well. So we saw a lot of the 𝗦𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗡𝗡𝗏 in last week's round at Monza getting swamped on the main straight. It'll be interesting to see how they get on into the first corner and into 𝗦𝗘𝗏𝗧𝗏 towards the back end of the lap as well. But if anything like last week is to go by, we should be in for an absolute cracker again this evening.
And indeed, David alluding to the action that took place last time at Monza, which threw up an interesting result, being that we had a race victor in the form of Aaron Walker, looking pretty strong and untouchable for the entire event. But rather, one of the talking points was Luka Berk, who, having suffered a drive-through penalty in the final 10 minutes, managed to battle his way up to 15th, which sees him start pole position this evening. Now, the Season 4 champion in the Porsche Cayman seems to be a fairly unmatchable combination. But Stephen, tonight this track will lend itself to different cars, won't it? Monza, we saw the strength of the BMW and KTM, but are there any of these GT4 cars that will be standout performers here on the twisty circuit at Suzuka?
I think obviously with them all the higher, the car's been having the ballast, etc. Hopefully should be a lot closer. But I mean, you look at the practice times. We've got a KTM which is doing really, really well here. So maybe hopefully we'll get a bit of a battle through the field from Aaron Walker, who I believe starts 15th. So it's one of them. It could be anybody's.
And actually, on that subject, Steve, we've seen from the reverse grid where drivers need to make those positions. They need to get up the order to score the big points. And last time out at Monza, we saw the championship contenders getting through the order early. From your experience of racing in this GT4 championship, is that the strategy? Get the moves done early on, or is there enough time across the 45 minutes to pick your way up the order?
Yeah, 45 minutes is quite a short period of time, especially when you're driving, with a good field of drivers. So I think maybe getting through the field quickly and surely is going to be the order of the day. I don't think you can wait too long. I think just get past the first lap safely and still alive, and then hopefully nobody will fudge it, and then everybody should be on the way.
Absolutely. So, David, our championship contenders, obviously second half of the season now, the run-in towards the finale at Silverstone. The likes of Michael O'Brien, Jenson Button, who unfortunately isn't racing this evening, I don't believe, Luka Berk, they're going to be looking for a strong result tonight to really kick on and set themselves up to be in a good position come the season's end.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. And like you say, Luka Berk's got the he's effectively, well, he has got pole position. Like you say, he came 15th last week. I think he was in the early 20s when he came out, courtesy of that drive through towards the end of the race at Monza last week. So fortunate for him that he's managed to get up. But of course, that does mean that he, who came 15th, will be on pole, but 𝗖𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗏, who was one position behind him in 16th, starts in 16th. So it really is fine margins. But Michael O'Brien will be starting in 11th, so he's going to be one to keep an eye out for. And 𝗬𝗦𝗡𝗡𝗏𝗡 are going to be starting in 12th, in 9th, if my memory serves me correctly. So something to definitely look out for. But with the Suzuka, it's one of those tracks where the first corner isn't necessarily an overtaking position on the first lap or so. I don't think it's quite a fast flowing corner, so it's going to be one of those where I would imagine a couple of those guys in the mid pack are just going to try and settle down a little bit, try and keep themselves out of trouble for the first couple of corners as they go through the S's, and then start to manufacture some moves and get themselves back up the grid once the field starts to settle down a little bit.
Well, the field managed to do it very well last time out at Monza, keeping clean through the tricky first chicane, but no results to show your championship standings. As part of the Simsport Racing community, all race results are provisional and drivers are given a chance to protest any events on track. So as there are some appeals going on, we will leave the points changes for next time out at Hungary. But looking forward to tonight's event, it's going to be interesting to see how those drivers can make their way through the field, because at Suzuka, it's a tricky one to overtake at. And Stephen, there really are a couple of good overtaking opportunities when we watch Formula One race around here. But is every corner really an overtaking opportunity in these GT4s, or do you have to set up certain locations to make a pass?
I think, the GT4s can be a bit tricky, but it's at Suzuka, there are only really a couple of passing places. I think maybe into the hairpin, maybe into the last chicane, you can throw it. You can do it into the first corner as well, but it'll be interesting to see who makes their opportunities in whatever places they do.
And obviously some iconic corner names, the S's that are made so famous, similar to those Maggots and Beckett's complex at Silverstone, but far more undulating in their elevation. Then Dunlop up over the crest and down the hill towards the two right-handers at the Degner, where the track then goes underneath itself, a figure of 8 layout, which is unique to the Suzuka circuit, up towards the hairpin, where we've seen our fair share of drama over the years, then through the long right-hander that swoops up towards the spoon curve, and then back straight towards the 130R and the final chicane at the Casio Triangle. And David, for a driver to be racing at a circuit where A, all of the corners have names, which is something I personally enjoy, and B, it be a circuit with the characteristics of Suzuka, it's just as fun to be driving the circuit as it is to be battling with 9 on 30 other drivers.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. And it is one of those tracks where finding your flow is very, very important. Like you say, if you go into the S's on any lap, it's ever so slightly off kilter, it's really going to throw you off for the next sort of 4 or 5 corners that you're going through. So getting a flow and getting into a rhythm early doors is going to be really important. And like Stephen said, there's a couple of overtaking spots, I think, in these GT4s. I think if you're close enough, then there's always a chance for a move. We've seen that countless times over the last few seasons here with Simsport Racing. But there are going to be some ones to keep an eye out for. You're going to be focusing, I think, on trying to get the best possible exit out of Spoon Curve, because obviously you've got that massive long back straight down towards 130R and into the Casio Triangle, like you said. So it's going to be something to keep an eye out for. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I'm particularly thinking and bearing some consideration to the two Maserati drivers, 𝗖𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗏𝗏 and Regan Mitchell, because coming out of Spoon Curve onto a straight like that with no traction control is going to be a little bit entertaining, shall we say.
Yes, definitely. So the drivers are now lined up on the grid. They'll be rolling away on their formation lap very shortly, and it's nice to see a fair few of you watching on this evening. Hello to Kieran Vidago. It's a shame not to see you racing, KV, but Andrew Fife as well, and Frankie Helliwell, thank you very much for stopping by, and we hope you enjoy the race this evening. If, of course, you do enjoy the action that you see for the GT4s at Suzuka, then please feel free to like the stream here at Simsport Racing and, of course, subscribe to the channel and maybe hit that notification bell as well just to be notified for when we go live next time. So as the drivers are on the grid, and Stephen, looking at the track here, it's certainly a lot wider than some other circuits, start-finish straight. Is that going to really open up opportunities straight away when the flag drops?
It may possibly do, yeah. It's a nice, like you say, it's a nice wide circuit. Certainly down the start-finish straight. So I think whoever's who gets a good launch on the green light may make a couple of places up. So we'll just have to see, won't we?
So let's run through the order. Luka Berk starts on pole alongside Johannes Weiss. Then it's Regan Mitchell in the 𝗦𝗔𝗟𝗘𝗡𝗗𝗔𝗥 Maserati alongside Luke Rogers in the 211 Butler Powell Motorsports Ginetta. Then Yannick Muller in fifth in the Alpine alongside Matt Richards in another one of the Ginettas. Wagner Marquez in the Pole Simsport BMW lines up alongside Chris Shaw in the Mob 7 Zansho Esports McLaren. Then Aaron Martin Pilkington, race winner at Donington Park, lines up 9th alongside Benjamin Tusting. Then it's Michael O'Brien 11th ahead of Aidan Bro, surprise podium finisher at Monza. Will Dendy 13th with race winner at Monza. Aaron Walker 14th alongside Stin Paspont in the second of those Maseratis. Then it's Rene Butler, Gavin Utley, Philip Matzik, Richard Pixley, who took victory in the AM class last time out, with Simon Wilkes, one of his competitors in that category, alongside him in 20th position. Then we head down to Ollie Gill, Angus Martin, Jamie Peters-Ennis, Cameron Fife, Chris Bowman, Richard Semmons, Adam Isalovic, Mark Raddenbury, who is our Season 4 AM class champion, with Alex Buncombe starting 29th this evening alongside Michael Haffenden, who makes a return to the series after being absent from Monza, with Reese Wiggin and Mark 𝗦𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗢𝗡 rounding out your 32 runners and riders this evening at Suzuka. And with 5.8 kilometres of tarmac, there's not that much space to be handed around. So with 2 minutes to go before the drivers head out on their formation lap. And Stephen, I've alluded to a couple of times, it is a very unique circuit, very different to the challenge of Monza last week. What are the setup changes that drivers could have made in their practice leading up to this race? What are you looking to change on the car to really generate performance around this circuit?
With it being a fast-flowing circuit, you'd probably want a little bit less, for top speed, you'd probably want a little bit less downforce and whatnot, but you don't want too little, because the S's, you can make a lot of time up there and you can lose a lot of time as well. The 𝗏𝗔𝗥s can be quite dangerous if you've got very little aero. Yeah, I think aero and your ride heights, etc. Some cars may be limited with the camber, etc. I know the KTM is, so I mean that may be another thing that you could perhaps have a play with.
As we've seen this fantastic aerial shot brought to us by our broadcast director Steve Proudley, who we've sent up in the Simsport Solutions helicopter this evening to bring us this camera angle. He said he's feeling a little bit sick and he's a little bit afraid of heights, so I don't blame him. But what we can see from this aerial view, David, is how little runoff there is. Although it is an iconic circuit here at Suzuka, it has been upgraded into the modern age ever so slightly. I mean, looking from here, only turn 1, which is just behind the timing tower on the left-hand side, and 130R, which is towards the right-hand side of the screen, are the only real corners that aren't lined with gravel and grass. So there's very little margin for error here.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think I just about spotted someone spoon curve as well. But yeah, it's certainly one of them. It's an old school track. It's iconic. Yes, it's been, like you say, it's been advanced in certain areas, but that's the beauty of a track like Suzuka. It is one of those where you're very close to towing a line. You're either running the perfect lap, or if you get any little mistake, especially going through the likes of the 𝗏𝗔𝗥𝗏s, you catch a curb incorrectly and it can really offset the car and throw you into the gravel. So something they're going to have to keep an eye out for. And as you mentioned a couple of times, there's a plenty enough width in the track to go 2, maybe even 3 wide, especially down the start finish straight, as you can see at the moment. But it is one of those where if you're aggressive, you can certainly make moves where others may not elect to do so. So I think we're going to see some brilliant racecraft throughout the race tonight.
Luka Berk then leads the grid away on this formation lap. Interestingly enough, Luka Berk was 15th place last time out at Monza. is the first time the Zansho Sports driver has finished outside of the top 4 in his competition here in the GT4 Championship. Yeah, I did some homework anyway before this race. But really, that's leaves the challenge up to his championship rivals, the likes of Benjamin Tusting and Michael O'Brien, who are starting in 10th and 11th. It's up to them to make the moves, because the chances are Luka Berk could be running away with this one at the front. But behind, Johannes Weiss, Regan Mitchell in one of those Maseratis, and Luke Rogers in the Ginetta look set to battle it out for AM honours and may be able to snatch a surprise podium as the drivers head down the hill towards the 2 Degners. Right-hander that leads into another right-hander where you dip under the bridge. And as you can see from this camera angle, the vast expanse of gravel that will be waiting to catch drivers should they run a little bit too far over the track edge. And Stephen, we have seen drive-through penalties handed out for track limits abuse. Where are the opportunities on the Suzuka circuit where drivers might be, might succumb to the wrath of the stewards if they cross the white line one too many times?
I think obviously the most obvious place is 𝗦𝗘𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗡𝗏. I think that's the place where they'll probably pick up the most of their the track cuts, etc. Maybe maybe spoon curve. It's got a very peculiar kind of arc to it, and you've got to take that very gingerly coming into the second part of it. So I mean, they're the 2 biggest spots I think that people may struggle. Degner curves, Degner 1 is fairly easy, but coming into Degner 2, if you hit that curb on the inside right hand side of Degner 1, it can sometimes unsettle your car and throw you out towards the outside. So there's going to be plenty to look at, plenty to places where they're going to need to be clenching, as it were.
Of course, and the driver that we're riding on board with at the moment, Aaron Martin Pilkington. Now, David, we've seen how he's been able to climb the order. Obviously, at Donington Park, he rose up a handful of positions to take victory ahead of Jenson Button. And at last race at Monza, he came from, well, must have been 15th on the grid, thanks to reverse grid position, to take 6th place at the flag. So he's very much accustomed to fighting through the order, and several of those drivers in and around that top 15 are going to be trying to do the same this evening.
Absolutely, Tim. Yeah, I think we're focused on Aaron Walker at the moment in the KTM. He's going to be one of those who's going to be looking to make moves. We saw, we between us before the broadcast saw that he was quick in practice, so he's going to be one to keep an eye out for. But yeah, Aaron's certainly done a fantastic job so far, and as he's well deserves his 3rd place in the championship. And if he can get a good result today, it's only going to help him.
So as the drivers take their formation, 2 rows of what must be nearly 18 cars on the grid this evening. As they round the Casio triangle, Luka Berk will be looking to get the jump on the BMW of Johannes Weiss alongside him as they head down towards the right-hander at turn 1. But in Berk's favour is that he is on the inside line, and he does dictate the start to some extent. So let's see how this one pans out this evening at Suzuka. It's the 4th round of the 5th season of Simsport Racing's GT4 Championship, and look at the 2 streams of cars head down towards the start-finish line. And then we go green, and Stein Paspont picks up a drive-through already, so he must have jumped the start in 15th place. He'll have to serve that within 3 laps. But round the outside, Johannes Weiss trying to challenge into turn 1, but Luka Berk just manages to hold on and close the door ahead of the 𝗦𝗘𝗡𝗡𝗏 Motorsports BMW. It looks like a fairly clean start through the mid-pack, but Berk's got the first job done this evening, which is lead away from the lights and beat the BMW down towards turn 1. It looks like Regan Mitchell has filed into 3rd place. Aaron Martin Pilkington, who started in 9th, I believe, is already looking to try and make up some positions. There's a couple of cars off in the background over the grass through the S's there. And as Berk streaks away over the hill down towards Degner, Aidan Grove and Will Dendy look to be scrapping in 12th and 13th. Actually looks like Dendy has had a slight mistake there. He's dropped off the back of the 𝗦𝗘𝗡𝗏 Motorsports Ginetta. Do the Degners for the first time, and they all seem to be running pretty cleanly inside this top 15, which is great to see. But already Aaron Martin Pilkington looking like he wants to get the move done on Chris Shaw in front, and he goes up the inside towards the hairpin and is unable to make the move, and that's allowed Aidan Rowe to attempt to pass around the outside, but David, it's the perfect start for Berk. He needed to lead away and lead away cleanly, and he's done just that.
Absolutely, and credit to Jan Weiss for keeping fairly close to him as well on this first half a lap or so. He's doing a fantastic job so far, and you see Regan Mitchell going a bit wide through Spoon Curve, and hopefully not going to have too much issues with track limits on that side of things. But yeah, Luka's just had exactly the start he wanted, hasn't he? He was under a little bit of pressure from Johannes into the first corner. I would have hoped that Johannes would have been a slightly more aggressive customer to deal with into that first couple of corners, but I can understand his reservations. Obviously, when you're starting that high up, you don't want to ruin your race into the first corner. So now it's just a case of let's hunker down and try and make some moves. Is Yannick Muller going down the inside? Is he on Luke Rogers going into the Casio triangle? Very, very close going through there. Managed to stick side by side. You've got Benjamin Tusting in the Mob 7. McLaren just behind, but it looks like Yannick's going to make that move, and Benjamin Tustin is going to have he's not going to need two invitations to try and make that move as well, is he? He's going straight through.
Look at that, we can see the relative performances of these cars, the McLaren dragging past the Alpine and the 𝗦𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗡, which are very closely matched, and two of the cars that don't have any ballast to carry. As we see the BMW there of Marquez coming very close to the side of Rogers and closing the door on him on the exit of turn 2. But Rogers will have the inside through the first part of the S's, and now they're still side by side through turns 3 and 4. And it looks like a little bit of contact there, nearly turned Chris Shaw actually in the McLaren. But Yannick Muller, who started 6th, is running 6th in the Alpine, ahead of Rogers and Shaw, who are still side by side. And that's going to allow Martin Pilkington to get the job done. He passes the number 58 McLaren and is up into 9th place, which is where he started. So he dropped a couple of positions then on that opening tour of the Suzuka circuit, and now looking to make a move on Luke Rogers. With 41 and a bit minutes still to go, there's still plenty of time for action this evening. Martin Pilkington looks to be wasting no time in making the pass on Luke Rogers. He goes to the outside, and that nearly opens the door for Chris Shaw to make the move. And even Aidan Rowe is attempting a pass round the outside, which will become the inside through this long drag up towards the Spoon Curve. But with the pace of the McLaren in the straight line, he has to fall in behind. A little bit of contact side by side. Martin Pilkington and Rogers come to blows. Rogers spins across the track and T-bones into the side of Martin Pilkington in the 626 car. And they're both off into the runoff. And that was a very unfortunate instant there, Steve. It just looked like they banged doors on the way into the Spoon, and Rogers was out of control on the way in.
Yeah, it's a terrible shame. Terrible shame. We was both making plenty of good moves there. I could see Aaron was wanting to get up there and start to make places up. It looks like he's kind of slow to wait for the other driver to retake his spot, which is always nice to see. But yeah, I mean, that's a shame for them both.
And Alex Buncombe here in the 12 Cayman, who started well down the order, is now up into 14th place, which is a pretty spectacular start from him. Obviously was not racing last time out at Monza, so starts well down the order towards the late 20s, and now up to 14th. So that's a very impressive start. Well, 12th, sorry, from the Rocket Esports driver. Here's Will Dendy, podium finisher last time out, and with Chris Shaw in front and Aidan Rowe behind, he's got two of the drivers that he's really got to beat if he wants to challenge for this Season 5 GT4 title. Interestingly enough, though, David, looking at the timing tower on the left-hand side, we did say that Luka Berk might have the pace, but after 2 laps of this Suzuka circuit, his gap is only around half a second.
Yeah, I've just been keeping an eye on that. Unfortunately, Pitwall Live, doing the live timings, is selected to refresh and screw up the first sector timings on the last lap, so unable to see exactly what it was. But yeah, it looked like Johannes Weiss was a little bit quicker that one, as we now flick to a replay. I wonder if it's going to be the move or the coming together between Aaron Martin Pilkington and Luke Rogers. It looked to me like Aaron just tried to go through up the inside, and wonder if Luke just didn't notice he was going that close and was alongside. You just see him come across, maybe a bit of understeer from Aaron in the BMW, and like you say, he's just a passenger at that point. There's absolutely no way that Aaron's going to be getting out of the way. But like Steve said, fortunately, it looked like Aaron was courteous enough just to wait back and let Luke kind of come back in front of him. So good sportsmanship from him, but not the way you'd have wanted to start this race.
So looking at drivers who have made their way through the field as 6 minutes elapse of this event this evening. Looking at Matt Richards in 3rd place at the moment in the 44 𝗦𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗢𝗡. He started in 7th place this evening, so he's made up 4 places to get onto the podium, which he'll be looking to grab this evening. It will be his first podium this year. Actually, he took the win at Oulton Park, if my memory serves me correctly, so scrap what I just said. But here, 𝗬𝗘𝗟𝗡 in the Dunn Motorsport CST number 18 𝗦𝗘𝗧 attempting to make a move on Chris Bowman, but Simon Wilkes in the Aston Martin behind looks to have the pace on the straight line, definitely, but as they come down into the Casio triangle, it looks like 𝗬𝗘𝗟𝗡's just able to close the door, as in front of them Chris Bowman looked like he went slightly over the curb and lost himself some time, and that's allowing Rogers to close back up again. Rogers is now making the move on Wilkes, as we see Jill and Bowman going side by side. And so Rogers has returned to action, and just out of shot there is 𝗦𝗏𝗡𝗡𝗏 in the Tron Racing BMW. It's going to be interesting to see, Stephen, if they can climb up the order, because like we've said, Suzuka's not the easiest place to make passes done. So there's coming together with Wilkes and then with Bowman. So Rogers making contact with the Aston Martin and the 𝗦𝗧𝗏𝗡 there. That's certainly another incident the stewards will be looking at following this evening. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these two drivers can make their way through the field.
Yeah, I think obviously if they've not picked up too much damage, I think Rogers may have may have a few more battle scars than maybe Aaron, but for sure, I think if they've still got a car that's driving at 12 o'clock, then they should be okay. I would expect Aaron to come through quickly, though. Obviously, the BMW seems to be better in a straight line, I would have thought, but it'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
So the driver in your picture-in-picture on the right-hand side of the screen, Michael Haffenden in the HF Impala Racing Aston Martin, the number 861. He's made up a fair few positions on the start. He was down, I think, in 26th position when he started, so to be up to 21st. And I spoke to him before the race, and he said, look, if he can get on the timing tower, he'll be very happy with his performance this evening. He thinks he's found a little bit of pace in this Aston Martin, which he and teammate Angus Martin have been struggling with in the switch from the Chevrolet Camaro to this Vantage, which I think they're the only team actually to have swapped cars every season, so keeping things fresh. But he's looking to make a move on Jamie Peters-Ennis on the run up the hill towards 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. The McLaren 570S is fairly strong in a straight line, and that's not opening the door for Haffenden, who goes from the outside to the inside on the way into the Casio triangle, but the door is firmly held shut by Peters-Ennis, who runs slightly wide on the run into the chicane. And with 36 minutes to go, he's got plenty of time to make the move, but it looks like he's going to want to be getting past soon and closing the fairly sizable gap to the next pack of cars, which includes his teammate Angus Martin up the road. So an interesting first few laps here as we see the drivers start to fan out into their positions. And this is where things get interesting now, David, because we're going to start to see the relative pace of these drivers. And like we alluded to already, Johannes Weiss in the 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 Motorsport BMW is not being dropped by Luka Berk, but he has got company behind in the form of Matt Richards.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I will firmly stand corrected. I was expecting Luka to disappear up the road and maybe have someone like Matt going with him alongside, but Johannes is doing a fantastic job of not only holding off the 𝗦𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, but like you say, he's sticking to the back of Luka Berk quite nicely. He was actually 3/10 of a second quicker on that last lap and did a session best in the middle sector as well. So he's certainly got the pace in that BMW. Of course, as we know, the Porsche Cayman of Luka Berk is running 50 kilos worth of ballast to level out performance bias in this kind of thing. But he's doing a fantastic job so far, and I think what he needs to do is he just needs to avoid tussling too much with Matt Richards, because that's going to be the teller that will give Luka that chance to disappear up the road. But he's certainly doing a good job at the moment.
As he looks to the inside, actually, he's looking like he wants to make a move on the Season 4 champion on the run-up towards 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. So he's certainly showing his pace in the BMW as 10 minutes of this race elapsed, 34 to go. Drivers don't need to make a pit stop. They no need to visit pit lane unless, of course, they choose to. But Stephen, with a track like Suzuka, do you expect to see drivers potentially struggling with tyres late on? As we see Weiss actually going to the outside of the run down towards turn 1. Let's see if he can get the move done. He's alongside Berk, but Berk just holds the inside line. He nearly drops it, actually,
Oh.
very sideways. Manages to hold it on the run into turn 2.
I think this is just a matter of time before Vice gets Luka. I think as regards to the tyres, I think they'll be towards the end. I think some of them might start struggling more than some others, but it makes for more of an interesting watch, I guess.
Well, a rare mistake really from Berk there. So interesting to see that Johannes Vice is pushing him hard enough to make the Season 4 champion into those kind of errors, make those kind of errors as they run down through the Degner curves. Vice all over the curb on the inside, and Richards closing up as we ride on board with the Zansho number 44 𝗦𝗘𝗏𝗡𝗏𝗏. This brilliant onboard camera shows how the track climbs up towards the hairpin. You drop the anchor to get the car slowed down. Vice just defending the inside line there, not opening the door to Richards. I've just seen on the back actually of that livery, David, that the BMW says keep your distance. So maybe some kind of promotion of social distancing, but Matt Richards will want to be as close to that BMW as possible.
Absolutely, yeah. It very much reminds me of when you're following a learner driver, at least in the UK anyway, and it's got that wary of sudden stops or anything like that, which has amused me to say the least. I saw it coming into the hairpin. But yeah, Matt's really just got to bide his time, I think. It's quite clear that, as Steve mentioned, there's a very possible chance, if not a likelihood, that Luka Berk is going to drop out of this lead position at some point over the next 32 minutes based on the way he's driving. I don't think he feels, or at least he doesn't look to be, as Johannes Vice goes very deep into the Casio triangle. I was about to say that Luka doesn't necessarily seem too comfortable in that Cayman, and then I say that, and Johannes outbrakes himself and then he goes plumb into the back of him. But if Matt can bide his time, there's definitely a chance of a race win on the cards for this 𝗦𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏. Despite the fact there is some long straights, like we've mentioned, he's certainly using that toe to full effect, and he's managing to stay on the back of these guys quite nicely at the moment.
Well, it looked like actually there might have been contact, so I wonder if Matt Richards ran into the back of Vice into the Casio chicane. It looked like a slight jolt from that onboard camera, as we see a little bit of contact there in front between Rhys Wiggin and Mark 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 in the bright yellow Mercado Racing 666 Mercedes. It looks like a big sponge, but I believe it is actually cheese. So hopefully he doesn't melt this evening and has a brilliant race. I saw someone say that. Someone said that in the chat.
That was me.
Oh, was that you? Okay, there we go. Anyway, so as Adam 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 here, teammate Aaron Martin-Pilkington is hustling on, and Richards is attempting to line up a pass then on Vice. So it's gone from Vice looking like he could challenge Berk to now Richards looking like he's going to try and get past Vice. But all in the meanwhile, that's allowing Benjamin Tusting in the 64 McLaren to close right up. He's brought that gap down from over 4 seconds to now 2.3. So he's closing up on this battle pack, which is for the podium. Now, that's just allowed Berk some breathing space, and he's able to try and get the power down and focus on his corners without any competition or distraction. And then Yannick Müller in 5th place. So if we go to a replay to see what's been going on further down the order. No, this is a replay actually of Richards as they run up towards 130R. Berk going defensive, then drifts back across onto his racing line. Vice gets a little bit out of shape mid-corner, understeers, but manages to hold the car. And Matt Richards goes to the inside, tries to send it in late. And wow, there's nothing really that you can do there. Obviously, Vice has to turn in at some point, Steve. It's just a racing incident.
I'd have to have a look at it again, I think, perhaps. But yeah, certainly trying to go for the opportunistic throw up the inside. But obviously, Vice was always going to cover the inside there, which I would have done in the same position.
So as this trio then head across the start-finish line, as we move into half an hour to go. And here is Michael O'Brien in the number 7 Rocket Esports McLaren. He's got Alex Buncombe for company behind, but he's trying to get past Aidan Bro in the 556 Butler Power Motorsports 𝗦𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. And on the run down towards turn 1, O'Brien just drags past in that McLaren. There's so much speed in that car in comparison to the 𝗦𝗃𝗏𝗏𝗏, but we may see the tides turn around the rest of the lap as the circuit goes into the twisties, and it might favour the 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. And we've seen Aidan Bro able to drag results out of that car. Rather surprise podium last time out at Monza really showed that he is capable of pulling the best out of the car and making or maximising race results in situations that might not lend themselves to him. And in the picture we can see Aaron Martin Pilkington, who did drop down the order early on owing to that contact with Luke Rogers, is now up into the top 20. He's challenging in front. That's Michael Haffenden in the 861 HF Impala Racing Aston Martin. In front of them, Richard Pixley in the number 11 𝗦𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗢, who's currently third in the AM category. No, sorry, he's a little bit further down, of course, because of Johannes Voice and Regan Mitchell, who are quite far up the order. So Aaron Martin Pilkington, David, is doing what we've seen him do before, which is climb his way through the order and show no signs of slowing down.
Yeah, absolutely. We know We know Aaron's a good racer, and he's certainly got some overtaking moves up his sleeve. I'm sure I've spoken to him about it in the past. I'm pretty sure he said he's a passionate driver, which many people will probably construe as an aggressive racer. But I think he's well entitled to what he says, and he's a fantastic driver as well. And if he hadn't have got caught with Luke Rogers, of course, on the second lap in the end, he would have probably been up towards the front end, potentially fighting with the likes of Ben Tusting, and if he'd have got even further, obviously could have been close on the back of Matt Richards as well. But still doing a fantastic job, and I would imagine focus for him now, as we see plenty of action going into the Casio trial. That's Aaron Walker under a bit of pressure from Chris Shaw and 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏. In fact, he's just taken the position off 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏. 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏's dropped 2 positions there by the looks of it, once you see the timing tower shake out. But yeah, Aaron's probably now focusing on trying to get that 15th spot, or at least somewhere in the low teens, and just start to focus on the next time out of Hungaroring, maybe.
As we see, it's an exciting battle between these 3 drivers. That's Shaw, Walker and Bro going at it, and Bro to the inside of Walker through turn 1, closes the door on the KTM on the exit, and now it looks like it's a matter of if not when that KTM gets past the 556 𝗦𝗃𝗏𝗏. These guys battling for 12th and 13th, as Shaw makes a break for it in front, now opening a gap of nearly 0.6 of a second. And it's Alex Buncombe in front of them in 10th in the 23 Porsche Cayman. As we see Matt Richards looking very keen to make the move on Johannes Voice for second place this evening. He goes to the outside on the way into the hairpin, maybe trying to get the exit, but Voice just parks that BMW on the apex there, and that doesn't allow Richards not only that speed through the apex, but also almost compromises his exit very much so. And that 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏 really needs to prioritise corner exit to get the speed that it lacks in comparison to these other GT4 drivers, as we see them now kicking on, and Berk really now hasn't been able to extend the gap. Johannes Voice actually going purple on that previous lap, I believe. So he's got some fantastic pace in that BMW, currently in second place, and Tusting in 4th is closing up. You can see him in the back of the shot there as they run up towards 130R. Matt Richards the only one of the top 3 not to run over the curve on the exit there, so there might already be starting to rack up some track limits warnings as they round the final corner and down the pit straight, crossing the timing line with just over 25 minutes to go. But Pilkington is still making progress. He's up to 16th place, and he's a bit of a smiling assassin, isn't he, Aaron Martin Pilkington? He was very happy with that victory at Donington Park, and I suppose we have to consider him a bit of an outside challenge to the title if he can get some solid results in these next 2 races. Battling through the order, he's now got Angus Martin in front of him, so he's dispatched one of the HF Impala Racing Aston Martins. He's now going after the next, but we'll see how much further up the order he can get, undoubtedly carrying some sort of damage on the Tron Racing BMW number 626. 𝗦𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏, still looking for a way past Chris Shaw, and still looking for a way to keep Aaron Walker at bay in the black and red KTM, as Aaron Martin Pilkington does look for a way past into turn 1. Angus Martin ahead, not feeling too confident this evening in the Vantage at Suzuka, is hoping that he can drag another points paying position out of that car tonight. As we have a look at the order so far, with under 25 minutes to go, Luka Berk leads the way from Johannes Voice. Then it's Matt Richards rounding out the podium with Benjamin 𝗬𝗓𝗡 in 4th ahead of Yannick Müller. And then in the 93 of Wagner Marquez ahead of Regan Mitchell. As we see, Aaron Martin-Bilgerton going round the outside of the first Degner. That's a really impressive move there, Stephen. That's such a tricky corner, very fast, but it very much closes up on the exit.
No, for sure. That was a very brave move. Perhaps one that I wouldn't have gone for myself, but he made it work, which is great. Puts me in 15th place, which is the all-important pole for the next race. So, if I was Aaron, you wanted to make a play for the championship, then perhaps sitting pretty in the 15th or 14th place if he can catch it in front row start for the next race would be absolutely perfect for him. I think he's got the speed, so I think that's ideal for him.
But he is nearly 12 seconds behind Matic in the 251 BMW. So let's see if he can set about closing that gap as Johannes Weiss ducks to the inside on the run down to turn 1. And there's contact with Luka Berk, side to hip check, and Berk drifting round the outside. Wow. I don't know how he held that. He was definitely a full opposite lock, and they're still making contact on the exit of turn 2. Weiss attempting to go around the outside through 3. Berk is still holding on. I'm not quite sure how he held that. If he can keep the inside here, that might set him up through the final part of the S's. And somehow, Luka Berk holds on to the lead. David, I don't quite believe how he managed to do that.
I'm still I don't know how he's managed it. I'm speechless. That was incredible. How on earth did he do that?
I'm hoping he's got a triple monitor setup, because he would have been looking hard left as he drifted at almost a 90-degree angle through turn 1 there. That was impressive stuff, but almost shows you how in control he is of that Porsche and how tuned in he is with it to keep it going in a straight line after that.
Absolutely. I mean, that was nothing short of incredible. I mean, hats off to him. I mean, he deserves a win tonight just for that move alone, and the fact that not only did he manage to keep it from spearing off into the wall when presumably he had full opposite lock going, like you said, to try and hold the slide, he's then still managed to go around the outside of Johannes Weiss and get around him through the S's as well and hold on to the position. So it's ludicrous stuff. But we've gone back to Mark Raddenbury, who's trying to make the moves on JDP Stenson 77 McLaren, going through the first of the 2 Degners. He's bit of a speed differential, so if Mark's going to want to make the move, he's going to want to try and make it fairly soon. He looks like he's got a good run out of the second Degner up towards the hairpin. He's not going to make it this time though, and that is that classic a little bit of contact going into the hairpin, a little bit of coming together, as that gives Adam 𝗍𝗍𝗡 a chance to get in on the action as well. But it's one of those, isn't it, where the 𝗍𝗍𝗡 has got such a disappointing speed differential to everyone else. It's so difficult to make a move, especially around tracks like this where you've got these enormous straights, because you need to try and make it when there's a chance for you to actually build the gap. But if you can't get it through the S's, then chances are you're just going to get hauled down the back straight anyway.
So here we see Weiss take 2. Seconds out, round 2. Weiss moved all the way over to the pit wall on the inside. He then ducks to the outside as the track goes right into turn 1. Weiss has attempted to make that move around the outside a couple of times, and Berk able to repeat the performance and just hold the inside line through the opening 2 turns. And behind, Richards really not able to make the move on the BMW either, getting a little bit sideways actually on the exit of turns 3 and 4. And this is allowing Benjamin 𝗬𝗓𝗡𝗡𝗗𝗏 to close the gap even more so. He's brought it down to the best part of 1.5 seconds now as we tick into the final 20 minutes of this one. So time starting to run out on Weiss, who certainly looks like he's got the pace to get through, but Berk able to just match him where it matters. Further down the order, Wagner Marquez here in the 93 Pulse Simsport BMW. It's coming under fire from Luka Berk's teammate, 𝗦𝗬𝗓𝗏𝗡𝗏, who's looking for a rather audacious move into the first Degner, but able to keep the car together as we see Weiss actually side by side with Matt Richards into the hairpin there, but able to defend his position as they run through the long sweeping turn 12 and up to the spoon curve. And really the last thing Weiss needs is Richards trying to make a move, because he's got his crosshairs firmly set on Luka Berk. So let's see if we can make it round 3 this time on the run down towards turn 1. Weiss clearly has the pace in a straight line on that BMW, which only carries 10 kilos worth of ballast compared to the 50 that the Cayman is hauling around, and the ballast-free Ginetta behind. as they come through 130 arc. We've seen Weiss has struggled with some understeer on previous laps. He all managed to keep it just within the white lines. Heading down towards the Casio Triangle, he almost made the move on the run into the chicane there, and that has rather compromised his exit to some extent. He'll have to come from further back to make the move on Berk. But let's see if that gap closes. It's 0.266 across the line, 0.234 actually. And Weiss, look how much he gains in the slipstream. He looks to the outside again. You get the feeling that that move isn't going to come off, Stephen, and that really he needs to do what he so very nearly did and cut back to the inside and slam the door on Berk.
I think it's a case of getting the last corner, the last chicane, Casio Triangle, not quite right. I think if he nails that perfectly, because what he's doing at the moment, he's obviously defending against Richards going into that corner, which is putting him offline for a good exit. If he gets that exit right, I think he could get Luka quite easily. I think it's just unfortunate they had that coming together. The couple of laps ago. I mean, that was scary, but credit to both the drivers.
So hard, clean racing at the front of the order. You see Wagner Marquez running wide through the Dunlop curve, and that's going to allow Alex Buncombe through as well. So he drops a few positions, as well as after being passed by 𝗦𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗢𝗡 on that previous lap. So this train of cars now in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th. So Regan Mitchell in the Squadra Volante, Maserati rounding out the top 10. And he's looking for a way past Wagner Marquez. That must be so difficult, David, handling this Maserati around the Suzuka circuit. As we know, no ABS and no traction control, but Mitchell looks to be doing a stellar job.
Absolutely, yeah. No driver aids makes for either a very fun or a very scary edge of the seat time, and Regan's doing a fantastic job of keeping a top 10 position finish at the moment. You see Aaron Walker going very, very wide through Spoon there. I did notice him flashing his lights before. I didn't quite catch exactly what that was for. I wonder if he had a bit of a coming together with one of the two guys in front of him that we're focusing on at the moment, between Aidan Brough and Chris Shaw. But you see in the picture-in-picture, Matt Richards a little bit off the back of the BMW at the moment. It did look like Johannes got a better run through the Casio Triangle that time, which, Steve, as you mentioned, is going to be very important for him making the move. But Aidan Brough in the Ginetta looked at the inside of the McLaren. It's not something I would have expected to see the Ginetta staying along the back of Chris Shaw like he did, but he's got a good run out of the Casio Triangle onto the main straight as we come on to lap number 14 now. It's all to play for, and I think the top three and towards the bottom end of the points, barring the top 15 rather, barring Aaron Martin Pilkington, who seems to have gapped Angus Martin and is a bit of no man's land, to be completely honest. There's still plenty of position changes to come, I think.
So as we see Johannes Weiss now rather under pressure from Matt Richards, which he has been all race, but even more so at the moment as Berk looks to try and extend the gap through that opening sector. Drags 4/10 out of that Porsche Cayman to give him now a 7/10 advantage over the 271 BMW. But Richards again quick out of the second. Degner on the run up the hill towards the hairpin and look to the outside yet again, but we're going to see Weiss just close the door, park the BMW on the apex and stop Richards getting the best exit out of the corner. Richards almost bump drafting the BMW, not adhering to the advice which says keep your distance on the back of that M4 GT4 as they run through the long turn 12 up towards Spoon. And Richards, he looks like he has the pace in this middle sector, the real technical sector, as he goes to the inside through the Spoon. So nearly gets the nose of that Ginetta up the inside, but David, that was maybe a little bit too close. That could have turned sour very quickly. Yeah,
you're balancing risk and reward quite a lot there, aren't you? It was I was certain that was going to end in tears, and I would have imagined that Johannes Weiss would have had a few choice words to say after the end of this race if that hadn't have come off as he expected. But he's managed to keep the position, and interestingly, he's probably got enough of a gap to actually get the line into the Casio Triangle. So he's taken that wider line in, trying to set himself up for the run down, but he's probably a little bit too far back from Luka at the moment to make a move. He does have that closing speed. We know the BMW is quick, and in the toe of the Cayman it's even quicker than it already is, but probably a little bit too far back this time. But Benjamin Tusting, of course, in the background isn't too far off So if these guys keep battling how they are, 'cause although they're not necessarily alongside each other for portions of the lap, they are still running optimised lines through a lot of these corners. It's going to bring Benjamin in, and that can make this a four-way fight for what is arguably the race lead.
So I'm going to do a little bit of a sweepstake here. Stephen, who do you think is going to take victory in this one with less than 14 minutes to spare? Anyone from the top three, or would it be someone further down like Tusting?
I think it's impossible to say. It could be any one of the top three. But I think if it's looking like that, Ginetta is looking very racy indeed, especially in the corners. As soon as it gets on a straight, it's not really holding a candle to it. It's actually staying closer to that BMW than what I thought it would have been possible for it to do. But all credit to him, they're doing a real good job.
David, who would you put your money on as we see Simon Wilkes there going side by side with Rene Butler into turn one? David, who's your pick for the victory this evening with now 13 minutes to go?
As much as and I don't mean this in a horrible way, as much as I don't want it to be, I think it is going to be Luka Berk. I'd like to see Johannes do it because he deserves it based on the race he's run so far, considering the amount of pressure he's been under from Matt Richards behind as well. But I just think that Luka's got that. Not because of the fact that Luka's running the races, but I think just because Matt's behind him, he goes into smooth curve and there's the contact. It was always going to happen. And yeah, just to say that, it's almost proven my point, because I was going to say Matt Richards is the one who's really going to scupper this race for Johannes Weiss, and as he does that, they catch each other through spoon curve and gives Luka Berk arguably a couple of seconds of room up the road. So yeah, kind of answer my question really.
There you go.
Prove my point.
You put the crystal ball away now, David. We'll pay you for your services. But yes, indeed, that contact between Richards and Weiss now hands Luka Berk 2.4 seconds of space on this Suzuka circuit as we head into the final 12 minutes. Here further down the order, we see Wagner Marquez in 10th, ahead of Chris Shaw in the McLaren, who's looking for a way past the Mob 7 esports driver, looking for a way up the inside, but unable to get it done that time through the Casio triangle, but gets a really nice exit from the chicane and already is close to the back of that BMW, running very wide actually out to the left-hand side of the track as they come across the start-finish line. Shaw will be looking for a move. He's tucked right up behind that BMW. You can barely see his car. He's so close, but unable to get the move done into turn one. It's almost like his best effort's going to be scaring the BMW off the road, and he does so actually through turn two. They're now side by side, heading up towards the S's. And in the background there, I think we saw Aaron Walker getting all crossed up. Even though he made a bit of a mistake into turn one, Walker's really closed back up to this battling trio. In fact, Aidan Bro went defensive there, or rather ran slightly wide through the S's, which blocked Walker's line of attack. So Shaw, so we see contact, and that's Wagner Marquez side by side with Richards on the run up the hill towards the hairpin. Contact again, and that's turned the BMW. Weiss manages to get that thing stopped into the hairpin, but that's just another punch exchanged between the two. Racing hard, but Richards has managed to get past on this occasion, Stephen. Do we reckon we'll see a fight back from the BMW?
I think possibly. It depends if he's taking much damage. I'd like to see that again, because I think maybe if I would have been Richards, I may have been tempted to let Weiss back through on that one. I'm not sure it was a completely clean pass.
So let's see then if Richards can make best his escape. But on this final section of the track, which is very flat out, you're not likely to see that BMW close right back into the 44 Ginetta, and he's bringing Benjamin Tusting with him as they head into 130R. The nose of those cars all dip as they hit the brakes through one of the fastest corners on the track, heading up towards the Casio triangle. Then Richards holding the middle of the road. There's nearly contact between the two of them as Richards goes slightly deep on the first part of that chicane, and they run down the hill. He's almost a sitting duck in that Ginetta now in comparison to the BMW, which is so quick in the straight line. And Richard makes it clear early on and goes all the way over to the right-hand side. And rather cheekily drifts back over towards the left to try and close the door. But Johannes Weiss swoops across the front of him. Richards goes in brave round the outside, but skims off the track, and he ran through the gravel slightly there. Impressed he's managed to hold that one. And rather impressively, he hasn't allowed Benjamin Tusting through, despite running all the way off the track surface. But I wonder if he's going to be handed another warning from the track stewards there for going over the white line. So let's see if these drivers are pushing a little bit too hard and counting up those strikes for those track limits abuses that we've seen decide some rather interesting races so far this season. As we head into the final 9 minutes, we have a replay here. I wonder if this is the contact between the two of them. So as they run out of Dunlop down towards the 𝗦𝗔𝗟𝗡𝗗𝗏 curves, we've seen Richards is a lot quicker than the BMW through here. Actually sent it up the inside into the second part of the 𝗦𝗔𝗟𝗏, makes contact, and the BMW obviously having a better exit. They hit again through the slight right-hand kink. Marquez tries to close the door, makes contact and is sent sideways there, manages to gather it up. And Stephen, you said you need to see it again. Does that help clarify things for you?
Not really. The race is rubbing, as they say, but they've got to try and calm it down. There's only 8 minutes left. You know, you're fighting for a podium. You don't want to be taking each other out. So, guys, just need to calm it down.
Let's see if they can keep it clean as we head into the final 8 minutes. All this battling has allowed Luka Berk, rather handed him really, a 6-second advantage, because David, early on, he was really under threat from these drivers. And in fact, right in towards the middle of the race, it still looked like Johannes Weiss might have been able to pass the Season 4 champion.
Absolutely, Tim, and it's the first time I've properly seen him under pressure throughout this season, and he didn't necessarily deal with it particularly well towards the start. He certainly started to begin to gain a bit of resolve over the next few laps, and obviously he had that fantastic save through the first corner, but realistically, Weiss and Richards have given the chance of a win away just by battling as hard as they have done, because all of them coming together between them have lost them that 6 seconds. There's no two ways about it. And my gut feeling from that coming together, yes, the incident from Matt Richards, the first coming together, was maybe a little bit aggressive, but you could argue the door was open. I think the second bit where they came together up towards the hairpin, that was 6 of 2 or half a dozen, 6 of one, half a dozen the other, because as I think we saw, it was probably a bit of Matt Richards understeering up through towards the hairpin, and then Johannes Weiss closing the door on him as well. So I can understand, put it that way, why Matt Richards didn't think to give the position back at that point.
So as the timer ticks down, we head into the final 6.5 minutes. On the screen at the moment, it's the battle for around the top 20. So Jamie Peter-Dennis just out of shot ahead of Sten Passpont in the 444 Squadra Volante Maserati. Then Mark Raddenbury in 21st in the white and blue Dunlop Motorsports Ginetta, with Richard Pixley, Reese Wiggin and Rene Butler in behind, and those guys all fighting it for the AM class title. Of course, Mark Raddenbury taking that victory in the inaugural championship last season, and he'll be looking to do the same. His main championship contender is indeed Pixley, the driver behind him. As we see Passpont going round the outside of Jamie Peter-Dennis and up the hill through the Dunlop curve. He's going to close the door on the McLaren, and rather that's allowed Raddenbury making a very much opportunistic move as they're going to go side by side down the hill towards the 𝗦𝗦𝗏𝗏s. Peter-Dennis able to hold on to that position. Raddenbury opts to tuck in behind and live to fight another day, but Raddenbury in the Ginetta might struggle to get past the McLaren in a straight line, so we'll have to make it through the slightly twistier sections. Richards goes to the outside into the Casio triangle. He gets it stopped for the second part. They're side by side running out of the final chicane and onto the start finish straight, and it looked like, well, as much as Richards can try as he comes onto one of the fastest parts of the circuit, the BMW's just going to pull away in a straight line, and all that hard work doesn't come to any sort of reward. And with 5 minutes to go, time's running out for Matt Richards, who really wants to get this move done on Johannes Weiss. In behind, Benjamin Tusting hasn't really been able to show his nose in this battle, despite the two coming together. He hasn't been able to make up any position or really benefit from it in terms of his personal position on track. Yannick Müller 4.4 seconds down the road, as we see Matzik and Marquez battling it out through turn 1. Two BMWs going to be evenly matched in a straight line, barring of course any setup differences that they might have. Aidan Bro here in 10th, with Aaron Walker for company in 11th behind. This trio actually with Chris Shaw then at the back of the shot, exchanging positions multiple times throughout this race. And it looks like they've managed to settle down just for now as we head into the final 4 minutes. And once again, Richards goes to the outside, then attempts to get a better exit out of the hairpin, and he does so. He's all over the back of that BMW as they run through turn 12 and up towards the spoon curve. And it's really difficult now for Richards to make this move, because with some contact and with some pretty aggressive exchanges between the two of them, it's going to be tough to get this one done cleanly, but he still does have time to do it. But time is running out, David. It's going to be probably, two more laps from these guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can see Luka's probably just about coming down towards Casio Triangle now. So yeah, you're probably looking at 2 laps maximum in this race, and Matt's really got to make a do or die move at this point. And unfortunately, because of the car he's in, it's going to have to be a move at a point in the track where he can just gain that time. So if he can try and get a good run out of the Casio Triangle like he's trying to now, and obviously did on the last lap, if he can stay behind and try and make that move and just try and keep as close as he can behind that BMW into the first corner, there's every chance he can get that position. But otherwise, I can't see Johannes dropping that move unless there's any sort of errors between them. But as you see it on the screen in the main picture, Aaron Bro's still managing to hold on to 10th place ahead of Aaron Walker, but Aaron's got a fantastic run. Seeing Kieran Vidago mentioning that in the chat, the crossbow is looking a little bit beaten up. It does look like it's lost a lick of paint here or there. Regan Mitchell, of course, only just about in the foreground, but Aaron getting the run into the first corner is going to try a very daring move around the outside. He's got Chris Shaw close for company behind him as well, but Aidan Bro just covers the inside and manages to hold on for that position. But to go back to what you're saying, Tim, I don't think, barring a mistake from the current second place man Johannes Weiss, I can't see Matt Richards making a move, because I just don't think he's got the pace in that Ginetta from a top end point of view to keep the BMW from getting back past.
Well, we'll see that play out with 2 minutes to go, and only probably one more lap after this one. So Berk will be counting his chickens with a 7-second gap now, hoping that he himself doesn't make a mistake, like running over the exit of 𝗦𝗘𝗡𝗗𝗏 and picking up those dangerous track limit penalties that Stephen Haley, our Season 2 GT4 champion, was alluding to earlier on in the broadcast. And Aaron Walker in picture in that KTM, still fighting hard to get past the Ginetta of Aidan Bro, which also doesn't carry any ballast. So 2 very evenly matched machines going hammer and tongs in the final closing moments of this one. And yeah, Richards close up in behind that BMW, and once again the slipstream rather just seems to keep the Ginetta there as opposed to give it any more top end speed. Benjamin Tusting just waiting in the wings and lying in the best place possible should these two come together. They all take slightly different lines, kind of defending and attacking on the way into the final chicane, as Berk crosses the line to start what will be the final lap of this Season 5 Round 4 at Suzuka. Heading down to Turn 1, he doesn't have to worry about any cars around him, which has seemed like a rarity in this race so far. Tusting looking like he wants to get past Richards for the final spot on the podium as they head down towards the first corner. And that's allowing Weiss just a little bit of breathing space there. He's got now a couple of car lengths to Matt Richards, who will undoubtedly close up through the slightly twistier sections of the track. But like David mentioned there, BMW is so strong in a straight line that it's just able to reverse that deficit. And Stephen, we saw early on that Berk was challenged, but really these two fighting has somewhat handed him this race victory this evening.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they've given him a win, an easy win there as well, really, between the squabbling between each other, which is a bit of a shame, because it would have been great for this to have been a fight between the top 4. You can't forget also, look who's coming up behind him in the Alpine. They've got Yannick Muller there coming, making places up as well. So, yeah, he's going around the outside. He's going to just park it, and yeah, that's perfectly done. Wicked.
Once again, Weiss just able to keep the Ginetta at bay through the hairpin, as we can see the picture in picture. Luka Berk rounding the spoon curve for the final time, heading on to the long stretch before the 𝗦𝗘𝗡𝗗𝗏𝗏. He's going to lead this pack away, and he'll be taking his first victory in a little while, actually, but returning to the podium after a disappointing race at Monza, last time out. And indeed, Richards unable to make the move once again on Vice, so he might send it into the Casio triangle. But he's going to have to defend actually from twisting behind. He's looking like he's trying to make the move. But as Luka Berk rounds the Casio triangle for the final time and heads on to the start-finish straight, he's going to cross the line to take victory here. A round 4, season 5 of the GT4s at Simsport Racing. A rather dominant victory considering that so early on he looked like he was going to be beaten to it. Handed it by these trio battling, Johannes Weiss and Matt Richards coming together on multiple occasions. And wow, Richards leading by 26 thousandths of a second across the line from Benjamin Tusting. Then Yannick Moller in 5th, ahead of Michael O'Brien and Alex Buncombe, who climbs all the way up from the bottom of the grid to 7th place, with 𝗦𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗢𝗡 in 8th, Regan Mitchell in 9th, and looks like Aidan Brose just going to cross the line in 10th, ahead of Aaron Walker, Chris Shaw, Wagner Marquez in the Pole Simsport BMW, set to take 13th. Well, he's leading home a train of BMWs, which include Matzik in the 251 and Aaron Martin Pilkington, who absolutely decimated that 11-second gap, but it wasn't enough to claim another position. He'll take pole for the next race, the Hungaroring. Then it's the 2 HF Impala Racing Aston Martins. Angus Martin leads home Michael Havenden, who rose through the ranks to take 16th, with Adam Isalovic 17th, ahead of Stijn Paspont in the 444 Squadra Volante Maserati. It's Jamie Peters-Ennis in 19th, ahead of 𝗬𝗔𝗟𝗘𝗡𝗗𝗏. Luke Rogers, who looked strong early on but had that contact with Aaron Martin Pilkington, is down in 21st position, with the Reese Wiggin 22nd. Then it's Rene Butler, Richard Pixley, Mark Raddenbury as they all stream across the line, Simon Wilkes and Richard Simmons. But David, we saw a really interesting race there in terms of Berk was under pressure, and that's something we haven't been able to say for a number of these Simsport GT4 races.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's quite nice to see the shoe on the other foot for a portion of time. And if you had literally switched on towards the last 10 minutes of this race, then I can ensure you should go back and watch the rest of it, because it wasn't anywhere near as simple as it may have looked in the end. And I think realistically, Matt Richards and Johannes Weiss, hopefully we'll get to hear from them in the interview room in a minute from yourself, Tim, but I would imagine there'll be, it almost looked like it bore out of frustration from Matt, which then descended into maybe a little bit of red mist from Johannes making the move back as well, and all of that just accumulated into what was, I think, an 8-second gap by the end to Luka, who won the race. So they've only really got themselves to blame, I think.
And as David alludes to it there, Stephen, sometimes these races are about picking your battles, aren't they? Because you could cost yourself time, and over a 45-minute sprint, it can be quite difficult to make up that margin.
Absolutely. You tend to find that if you get stuck in the heat of battle, then you if there's two of you're going to lose out to the guy in front if there's somebody in front, or you're definitely going to lose to the guy behind. As you can see, 4th place man closed right up and almost got a really good run out of the last corner there.
So a bit of an interesting one here. I pose you this one, Stephen. Would it have been beneficial for Weiss to let Richards through and try and follow them up to Berk in the closing stages? You know, we saw them come together a couple of times. Would have that worked in his favour, or was it he needs to defend that second position for all it's worth?
I think maybe if you wanted to play it, I don't know. I'm not going to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you wanted to play the smart game, perhaps you maybe would have let him past, thinking that obviously the BMW's going to have the legs really easily down a straight. You're going to stay with him without any issues. Let him attack Berk. If they ever come in together, then you've got a free first place, I suppose. But yeah, you can look at it both ways. I mean, we've witnessed an absolute barnstormer of a race tonight.
Brilliant stuff. And David, once I get my trainers on and leg it down to the interview waiting room, reverse grid pole is going to go the way of our Donington race winner, Aaron Martin Pilkington. And we've seen how quick he is in that BMW. He must be smiling with his performance this evening to that all-important 15th place for the next race at Hungary.
Absolutely, yeah. And I would have been very unsurprised if we had to speak to him after this, if he wasn't just kind of holding off on the brakes and kind of holding off on the exit coming out in the final corner, because he was very, very close to the back of 𝗦𝗘𝗡𝗡𝗏, and obviously would have still been on the front row, but would have been nice to get the pole position. I know. But anyway, Tim, I'll hand over to you because I know you've got our podium sitters primed and ready for you to ask those very interesting, difficult questions. So I'll hand over to you.
So I'm here in the interview room with our top 3 finishers this evening: Luka Berk, Johannes Weiss, and Matt Richards. And Luka, I'll come to you first because after a slightly disappointing race at Monza, this looked like you were going to bounce back and be rather dominant this evening, but you didn't have it all your own way out there at Suzuka.
No, it really wasn't as smooth as I was hoping it would be. Yeah, it's just I really had to fight for that win, didn't I? But no, the car felt nice, felt nicely balanced and stable. Just when it comes to the straight line, that BMW is rapid. Like if I didn't have a second on him coming out of what's it called, spoon corners?
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel safe until turn 1. It's wild.
And we heard from you earlier on in the season that this 50 kilograms of ballast really does make the difference on this Cayman. And around a circuit like Suzuka, how are you setting up the car differently, or how do you approach carrying that extra ballast around a track that is so technical?
It's usually take a setup that I'm familiar with and then just make it more oversteery, because the ballast it seems to be very much up front, so it makes the car very understeery. So just try to make it turn more is the basic idea behind it, and it often works. So that's more or less it.
Brilliant. And of course, this victory this evening is certainly going to help you in terms of defending your GT4 title. You're already looking towards your championship position and trying to do your best to stop the likes of Michael O'Brien or Jenson Button challenging you for this overall title.
Well, it's the same as last season. Just push as hard as it'll go and hope for the best. Consistency often pays off. So, fingers crossed.
Well, congratulations on your result, Luka, this evening.
Thank you.
And we'll go over to our second place finisher, Johannes Weiss. Well, Johannes, welcome to the podium here at Simsport Racing. Congratulations on your result this evening. You looked very close to Luka in the opening stages. Do you reckon you would have had the pace to get past him?
Well, first of all, it feels great to be on the podium, finally. And well done to Luka as well. I mean, he had a tremendous pace throughout the race. It really was insanely fast, and I tried to keep it up. I knew if I'd go easy on my tires in the early stages, I'd have the legs to run it out into the later stages of the race. And with the BMW on the straight, I mean, I knew when I was out of the hairpin and into a range of a second, I could attack him into turn 1. So I'd imagine if it was very close at some point. So I don't know if I would have had the pace to pull away, because the pace was basically identical. But we'll never know, basically.
So a 10th place finished the opening round, then a 29th at the second race, and then 14th last time out at Monza. It's certainly nice to be up in the top 3, but of course with that comes the starting further down the order, the reverse grid, and looking forward to the next race at Hungary. What do you think your chances are of making your way through the field?
Well, I mean, the BMW is very hard to drive in Hungary. I mean, it's a big car. It's got good traction and good top speed, but that really doesn't matter at Hungaroring. So I think I'll be quite further back again. But having had a disappointing race in Donington, which left me a lot of penalties and nearly a race ban, I'm happier that I'm able to do those races instead of looking out for more podiums. But we'll never know. Maybe there's some carnage in the first lap and I'll be in for a podium again.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us in the interview booth, and congratulations on your podium this evening.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll go over to our third place finisher, Matt. Matt, you had the pace in the 𝗦𝗘𝗏𝗏. It looked on a couple of occasions that you were very close to getting past the BMW, but a return to the podium. How was your event this evening?
Incredibly frustrating, I must say. I felt like I had the pace to maybe challenge Luka. We're good friends, so I feel like it would have been a nice little duke out towards the end of the race. I think the cars were pretty level. Obviously, he's a little bit handicapped with the 50 kilos. But yeah, it's just incredibly frustrating. In the Ginetta against cars like the BMW and McLaren, you just kind of feel like you can't do anything, if that makes sense. You can be so much quicker in the corners and have incredible pace through most of the track, and then as soon as you've got to a straight line, all the work that you've done is just completely run away. And in a series where most of what you're going to be able to do overtaking wise is on the brakes, when you're not really near anywhere on the braking zones, you kind of have to get a little bit crazy. So that kind of forced me into the position that I was in a couple of times out there. So yeah, we'll look at the race, but yeah, it's incredibly frustrating, really.
And we spoke to you earlier on in the season after the opening round at Oulton Park about the pressure issues you were having with this Ginetta and using the curbs too much and really losing pace later on in the race. Do you feel like you've got on top of the the unique characteristics of this car now in round 4?
Oh, 100%. I've got a lot of confidence with the car, and I think that showed through pretty much everywhere from turn 1 until the hairpin, and even through Spoon Curve as well. The confidence is there in the car, and the pace, when not against something that's absolutely ridiculous, it is good. But with the races as they are, you just get forced into these tricky situations, really.
So looking forward to the next race at Hungary, a circuit that I got a podium in the Ginetta in season 1. I don't know if I've mentioned that on the broadcast already, but yes, a different circuit entirely. What do you think your chances are there? Obviously, it's the penultimate round of the season. You might be looking to your championship challenge, and obviously starting further down the order as a result of your performance this evening.
Certainly looking forward to it. It's a track that I feel pretty comfortable at with the Ginetta. It's a track that it should be pretty decent at. There's no huge straights that I can massively lose out on, and hopefully we just don't get stuck behind any BMWs.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Matt, for joining us here in the interview booth, and congratulations to yourself in your result this evening.
Cheers.
And we'll head back up to the commentary box to David.
Well, Steve, that was. I'll be honest with you, I was a little bit worried when Matt mentioned he was frustrated, but understandably, like you say, when you've got the lack of straight line diff speed, that it is going to be difficult. But I understand we have got a replay of the Luka Berk incident, which Tim, I'm amazed that you didn't ask him about. But do you want to talk us through this one?
I feel like he probably wanted to get away and change his pants as soon as possible after this one, because absolutely no idea how he kept this one all together. As you can see in the mirror at the top right of your screen, Johannes Weiss cuts to the inside. So once Berk finds himself on the outside, a bit of contact, that really just sends the car into a slide. And look at that, you can see how much steering lock he had to put in, and he manages to save it. Not only that, he keeps the car on the outside, contact again with Weiss as they go in towards turn 3, and he just braves it out now around the outside of 4, which becomes the inside for 5, and he's got the job done. And somehow, Stephen, he manages to hold on to that position.
Yeah, I've got no idea. Absolutely no idea how we managed to hold it. I think maybe anybody else that had been fired off into the gravel trap there on the left. But top driving and top skill.
Well, thank you very much, Steve, for joining us in the commentary box. The next time we get together for the GT4s will be at Hungary, a very different circuit. How do you foresee the racing playing out there?
I think brilliant. I hope. I think obviously it's not a straight line track, really. I think the Ginettas will do quite well. Obviously, I think the KTM could also do quite well there. But I mean, you've got to look at your starting grid. I think you said that Aaron was on pole. I think it was Angus Martin who got finished 15th in that race, I think. So I think it was Angus and Pilkington who start on the front row. So I mean, if Aaron gets a good start and gets into corner one in the leader, I think all's been well. He may be in for a good top finish there.
Thank you very much once again for joining us in the commentary booth this evening, Stephen and David. We hear then from Steve Haley about the unique challenge that is the Hungaroring circuit, and we're going to have to see Luka Berk really fight for it from 15th. But saying that, it's not to shy away from some of the performances of the other championship challengers, the likes of Benjamin Tusting in 4th, and Michael O'Brien in 6th, even Aidan Brough in 10th. It's really shaping up to be an exciting run-in for the championship.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's certainly a good couple of tracks to finish off with. Like you say, Hungaroring is going to be a completely different challenge to what we've got here. I think we'll start to see the power of some of those 𝗦𝗘𝗔𝗦𝗢𝗡 in the corners really starting to come to fruition, and then of course off to Silverstone for the finale the week after that. So yeah, everyone in the championship fight, barring potentially Aaron Martin Pilkington, had a really decent showing this evening, but of course Aaron will be towards the top end of the grid for the race next week. So it's going to mean, I don't think there's going to be anything confirmed in terms of championship winnings next week, but it's going to mean a fantastic setup for the final week of Silverstone.
Well, thank you very much, David, once again for joining me in the commentary box. I look forward to the next round at Hungary. Thank you to all of those who have joined us on the stream. I hope you enjoyed the racing action this evening, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Same place, same time for the round 5 of the season 5 of the GT4s here at Simsport Racing. If you want to get involved, then head over to the description of this stream where you can find links to our Discord channel, and you could see yourself out on the track fighting just as hard as we've seen this evening. But from everyone here at Simsport Racing, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.